I now call this meeting of the School Board of Independent School District 624 to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Scar.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Arcan.
Here.
Beloit.
Here.
Daniels here. Ellison.
Here.
All right, we're going to start with our discussion items. B1, Otter Lake Elementary update. Dr. Gillespie and Ms. Nelson.
Good evening, Chair Arcan, members of the board. I'd like to introduce Ange Nelson, principal of Otter Lake, who will give us an update on her school this year.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I promised the few people that came ahead of time that I would. Hello. Oh, run it back. Good evening, everyone. I promised the few people who came early that I would pick up the pace so we didn't have to use the storm shelter. So we'll clip right along here, but.
Which, by the way, is just the hallway.
Oh, good.
Right
Noted.
It's
Noted.
very close.
But we'd like to avoid using it.
Right. Well, I'm super excited to talk about Otter Lake Elementary tonight. So a few things I'm going to talk about is our priorities, just a little bit of background about Otter Lake, our academic goals, student experience, briefly. Lots about our family engagement, and then kind of what's next for the rest of this school year. All the pictures you'll see are pictures of Otter Lake students. I won't go into detail about who they are and how much I love them, but they are all Otter Lake students if you were to come to the school. All right, so just a little bit about Otter Lake. So this is my second year at Otter Lake Elementary. It's a neighborhood school across the street from Tamarack Nature Center. We have around 490 students, I would say. We have 5 cluster programs, so center-based school. So students from across the district gets buses to Otter for highest level programming for several special education programs. We have an amazing staff who've been at Otter for a very long time, and it creates an amazing feeling of family, I would say, for both families, students, and staff there. You might see in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little special picture I put in there, Officer Betty, who came during our readathon to read to some of our students. There is another special guest that's photoed in here that you'll see later on in the presentation. But the main event is down there in the bottom left, and that is the staff of Otter Lake Elementary. So here are the Otter Lake priorities for this current school year. You can see that the mission is over there on the left. I'm not going to read it all to you, and then on here we also have our objectives of Otter Lake Elementary. And then our main focus area is we will ensure the academic success of each student. And the way that we do that is really by focusing on those 4 main areas. So student achievement, which we're going to talk about tonight, student experience, which we'll highlight, family engagement, and then equity is really embedded into all of those. We do have a specific equity goal. I'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about student achievement. And then wrapped in all of that is really our staff well-being, to make sure that they love coming to Otter Lake Elementary every day, that they feel connected, and that they have fun together. All right, so our academic goal this year, and first I actually just want to highlight, I'm sure you've had other elementary schools have a fast bridge as part of their goal, but I wanted to make sure that we knew what FastBridge was before we kind of dive into it. So FastBridge is a research-based universal screener and progress monitoring tool. So it really looks at specific skills, which is different than an MCA exam, which looks at putting all those skills together into one test score. So I just kind of wanted to highlight that piece. And when we talk about low risk, we're considering a student is considered on track and not needing intervention and meeting grade level standards if they're low risk. So our goal this year is that 80% of students will demonstrate being low risk, measured by FastBridge, and that 95% of students with IEP literacy objectives will have met their goal. There's around 150 students at Otter Lake that are on an IEP, and so that is, if you do the math, I think it's about 30% of our school population. With that said, they don't all have literacy goals. So if they don't have a literacy goal, they'll be included in this data. If they do have a literacy goal, they're separated out. So for the purpose of this presentation, I don't have the specific special ed data because really we're in the thick of IEP season right now. So I pretty much have a meeting every single day after school where we're reviewing IEP goals, setting new goals for next year. We really are not going to be able to say with certainty that we've met that goal until the end of the year. With that said, if a student is not meeting their IEP goal, that's going to already be looked at. So I feel really confident in saying we're going to meet that goal, but I just wanted to let you know that there's not a special slide for that student population. So for kindergarten here, you can see that it compares from fall to winter, and they're at 84%. Now we're coming upon our spring assessment season. We're not there yet. We are hopeful, confident, excited that we'll maintain the same data and that these students will remain low risk. Obviously, as the testing season goes on, students are expected to learn and do more. And so, for example, students in each grade level may be expected to know or do 20, 40 more words than they would in the winter. I don't have those exact metrics, but it's not the same exact test. So even the students who are low risk currently will be expected to do more as they go along, which obviously we want them all to learn and grow. First grade is sitting at 72% at low risk. I'll kind of clip through this and then talk about how we got here. Second grade is at 71% in low risk. We're very excited about these results, by the way. Teachers have worked very, very hard this year, both in literacy and math. Third grade students are at 70%. Fourth grade is at 82%. I just want to highlight really fast. If you remember our MCA scores from last year, they were heartbreaking, specifically for this cohort. Very, very low. There was probably a 50-point growth between, and given you don't really want to compare MCA and FastBridge, it's not the same test, but the growth between third, fourth grade has been astronomical for these students. So I really just want to highlight that. That is a huge jump. And so we're excited to see, we're in the midst of MCA season right now, what the results will be in August. And then fifth grade is at 69%. So some of the things that we've really focused on this year is making sure that we have really tiered support for academic, knowing that tier 1 is 100%, which means every single student, whether they're in receiving special aid services or not, are receiving all of the tier 1 instruction. No one's getting pulled away from that. So, and then from there, really making sure that we're strategic around our intervention model. So I know I was here when Lori presented on Onika, so she kind of went through the WIN structure in detail. So we have the same WIN structure as do all elementaries, where we have the 30 minutes for literacy, 30 minutes for math. We do progress monitoring for students. That's how students are grouped. Students do switch teachers for their group based on the skill that they're working on. And then every 6 weeks, it looks to see, do they switch groups again? Students call it like graduating, like, do I need to be in a group still? Like, they're very motivated to not be in a WIN group. Or do they need to see an intervention teacher? Or do they enter into our child study process where it's not working? They've done rounds and rounds and rounds of intervention. Could something else be happening for this student? And so we've been really intentional with that, as well as paying attention to what the other students are doing during that time. So when teachers have their small groups, and some students are leaving for specialized services, all the other students are intentionally working on things that are meaningful to them. Part of that is with our family volunteer program. So I'll talk about that in a little bit, but they are in reading groups. They are reading groups with each other, with family volunteers, through enrichment, or sometimes just like needing to stay steady, where they're very close to maybe needing to join a WIN group, so they might need to do a little more practice, and then they can join. So just really being intentional around that time. We've had a lot of professional development focused on differentiation and just scaffolding, best practice, high impact strategies. modeling it for staff, and then having them brainstorm how it's going to be integrated into their instructional practices, and seeing really high results from that already. Our teams are highly collaborative with one another. They really want to work together. They're not competitive with one another, like, oh, they have higher scores than me. They're like, what are you doing to get those higher scores? Because I want to get my kids there too. So they're highly collaborative. And then, like I said, our parent volunteers this year, I know that they have made a huge difference with our literacy and math scores. And I'm excited to talk about that as well. All right, so for student experience, we do have a student experience goal and it was that 100% of students felt valued, cared for, and supported at school. When we did our initial survey at the beginning of the year, and we did it K-5, for the littles, they did it one-on-one with a teacher with emojis, and the older kids did it on a Google form. Each student then had to identify a trusted grown-up in the building, and then we compared that with our DESA data, our social emotional screener. Anyone who didn't have a grown-up that they identified, we would talk to them about that, what's going on. But we already in the fall was at 99.6% of students identified feeling that way. And so I'm not gonna go into detail other than highlighting here are some very cool things that we're doing at Otter Lake to help students feel that way. And there is a special guest on the bottom middle that you can see. Dr. Gillespie has come to read to students at Otter Lake as well. And then we'll give that survey again to students again in the spring, just to make sure that we've maintained that. So then more on our family experience. So when we met in August with our leadership team at our data instructional leadership day, they really wanted to extend themselves because we knew our student experience goal from last year. We sat at right around 98%. And they were like, well, just because we're almost there doesn't mean we're not going to keep trying to make our students feel loved and cared for and supported. But what about our families? And so they wanted to add a family experience goal, which is 60% of Otter Lake families feeling meaningfully connected to the Otter Lake elementary school community. This cute little photo is from one of our community dinner nights where we have a student ambassadors program, which most 4th and 5th grade students are a part of. This is one volunteer experience where they can host welcoming families as they come in. They love doing it. They feel very responsible, and they are very responsible. So we were able to survey 119 families during conferences in the fall, and 81%-ish, looking at 4s and 5s, ranking fairly high, stating that they felt connected to the Otter Lake school community. So some of the things that we've done kind of kick it off, and then that we've done throughout the year, and then we're looking to resurvey at our carnival, which 100% of families attend, I can say that with confidence, last year I pulled together a family advisory council that is separate from the PTA, as the PTA is amazing, and they raise just a boatload of money for Otter, and we're able to do a lot of amazing things. But that is their primary goal, is to support teachers through funding, and it is a separate nonprofit group. I was looking to have families be more involved in decision making and just what do you think about the different curriculums we're using? Do you feel like you're represented in this school? And a way that I wanted to try to have them give that feedback was by using, it's in the upper left-hand corner, is our family engagement tool that was created. And so families volunteered to be part of this family advisory committee, and they identified what they would like to see the staff work on for family experience goals. These are just 4 of them. There's actually more. A lot of it had to do with communication styles with families, with just recognizing bias and having staff go through ongoing training. Having some personalized plans with their kiddos, and having it feel community-based and that everyone was welcomed. So that's really helped guide our work throughout the year, in addition to having it be academic focus for our professional development, is also having pieces of this towards our professional development, so we can also help reach these goals. So when we go back to the Family Advisory Council here in the spring, and we can say, does this look, feel different to you? here's what we've done to see what they say and what they'd like to see us work on for next year. Another thing that we did was in the bottom left is we were really meaningful around our conferences, and when we kicked off in the fall with our welcome back conferences was including this little definition box, if you will. A lot of times, we said, oh yeah, we always ask, like, what do you want us to know about your students? And people don't always know what to say, so being really specific, like, what academically are you excited about, are you nervous about? What social emotionally are you excited about or nervous about? But then defining, what do we mean by that? Because we in school world might say emotions, and they might say they have huge reactions, they don't want to go to school, it's hard to get their shoes on. We can help parents with that. We can give them ideas for that, and families don't always know that that's something we can partner with them on. So really being proactive during conferences to engaging in those kinds of conversations. A few other things that we've done this year is we've hosted several community dinner and conversations that were wildly successful. Like 600 people wildly successful, providing free dinner, and then we have conversation cards on the tables where families talk about what's important about their student at Otter Lake, what's their vision for their student at Otter Lake, and having them like, okay, everybody stand, go find a new partner that you haven't talked to, with the goal really being to connect with people that you have not talked to before. The first time we did this, that was scary, even for grown-ups to do, and we highlighted that we asked students to do this on a daily basis, and they were more encouraged to do so. Depending upon how many people are left at the end of the night, we like to close out with some type of circle to kind of share reflections from the evening. What are your hopes and dreams for the future? That's where we got a lot of our ideas for what we did this year. For example, having a student group that's focused on culture that anyone can be a part of. It is a lot of our BIPOC students, but anyone is allowed to be part of it. That really came from our families saying, I think we need to do something like this at the elementary level. And we said, oh, okay. So it's meeting the needs of our families. They're asking for it. And so really going back to them saying, is this what you had wanted? And then, yeah, that is exactly what we wanted. So just that ongoing, consistent communication, two-way. And then our volunteer program is probably the biggest highlight, which is as part of the Welcome Back Conference, really asking everyone if they would be willing to give anything to Otter Lake throughout the year, whether that be volunteering or knowledge or, anything. There was a whole list of things. In the end, we had over 200 people that have volunteered throughout the year. It's about 5 to 15 that come in per day. It's really a great system that's worked out in the office. We have a few that even have now a permanent badge because they come in so frequently, and the kids so look forward to the time with them. So they help with literature groups, math games, student ambassadors. When we had our huge readathon event, it was ran and facilitated throughout the day by parent volunteers. We really wouldn't have been able to do it without them. One of the goals was we can ask families to come in and do some tasks like ripping worksheets out of workbooks, or we could ask them to come in and help us work towards our goals of getting kids to read at grade level. And families 100% stepped up to the plate, grandmas and grandpas, neighbors, like people that don't even have people in the building. Of course, they all go through a background check, and we have them sign off on like ethics. Here's what we abide to. If someone wasn't abiding by those things, I would have to talk to them. I've never had to talk to anybody. It's amazing. And then those are some quotes from some of our volunteers. And we have our big volunteer thank you breakfast this week, actually. So really excited. We've had 75 people volunteer yes, and we have some fun things in store for them. So what's next is on June 3rd, our 4th and 5th graders all participate in a day of service where there is several different service opportunities through the food shelf, Ramsey County Sheriff. There's so many, I honestly don't even know all of them. They make sandwiches, they make blankets, they spray painted the parking lot. Tim, we got approval on this, so don't really freak out. But it's all about to help control traffic. They clean up the gardens around Otter Lake Elementary. It's a really meaningful day, and for partners to come in and do that with us, and the kids love it. We're getting a new playground, which was a huge thing that we worked on at the beginning of the year. So between the Family Advisory Council, the PTA, every student got a say and every staff got a say in something to do with the playground, whether it's the pieces that are involved in it, the colors, the students got to pick the colors, and it was a deal. And they're so excited. It's getting installed in June. And just to highlight that this is a fully inclusive playground. Currently at Otter, we have an accessible playground, which means that students who are, a lot of students that are part of our cluster programming can access parts of the playground. This playground, whether they have physical challenges or we have a lot of autism programming, these new pieces of playground equipment are designed for sensory needs. And so we're really excited and so grateful to the district, as this is fully funded by White Bear Lake Schools. So we're so excited to have this built and have a huge celebration, which we hope everyone comes to. And then, of course, which I've already talked to you guys about, is the Spanish dual immersion kindergarten program next year, which just recently got fully staffed, and we're very excited about that. Lastly, every day I do video morning announcements, and it ends with this little Otter Lake chant where I say my part, and then on the morning announcements I say the student part too. Unless the student's with me, they say the student part. But it's actually adorable because as you walk through the building, the kids like actually say it. I always thought like, oh, they're probably just sitting there listening to me, but they actually say it. And then we end, "Go Bears!" And if I don't do that exactly, students will say, "Was something wrong this morning? You said it a little differently. Was something wrong?" No, nothing was wrong. But they like their routine, and so do I guess, because I say it the same every day by accident. But so that is the end. I will take questions.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Do we have any questions?
Why are you guys looking at me?
I don't know, I'm making sure. Do you have a question?
Well, yes, I could.
Okay, sir.
I took some notes.
Scar.
Hey, you mentioned that you had 150 students on IEP. What's the trigger point to get them off of IEP? Is it a test, or how do you determine that?
Well, there's so many different. That is a really complex question, so I will try to answer it in a very simplified way.
You're going to need to answer it in a simple way for me.
They would have to meet all of their goals and objectives to the point where the team could not come up with any more goals and objectives. They would say, you know what? We can't even think of another thing you could work on. You're at grade level, you're independently doing it by yourself with no supports needed. I'm looking at Lisa, I mean, it would really be at that level. When I see that is, you know, we have quite a few students in speech language at Otter. Students do come off of speech language only IEPs. So they have these goals and objectives, they work super, super hard, they can't say their R's, they finally master it, they do it independently, they don't need those services anymore, therefore they don't need that IEP anymore. Most students though, you know, if they are diagnosed with a disability and need an IEP, it's a disability is a disability. That's not something that goes away.
Right, I see. On your website, I went to each school's website. Is there a location on the website that shows, you know, the investments that were made in your school as a result of the bond referendum and the LTFM?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Probably not, since you're asking that question. But I will make a note of that.
I think it's more for the finance team to do.
Sure. That's a really good point, though, when people go to the website to highlight, especially when this playground gets built. I mean, like, that's a really big deal.
Well, and also show the amount.
Yep.
I
The amount that
can
was
mention
invested.
quickly that the Building Our Future page of the website does have by building projects that were on there as well. So in a way, yes, it's absolutely there from a district perspective. But I suppose we hadn't linked it from the school
Yeah.
right to their page, but it is there and available by building a page for each.
Okay.
Yeah, that could be good.
And that's on today's website? Okay, just couldn't find it. I think it'd be helpful to put it in each school where we made the investments, so the parents that go to that website can see the investments that were made in that particular school. I think that'd be helpful. Obviously, you don't have to do it for North Stars you know, because that's a new school, but I think it'd be helpful.
Okay,
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Beloit.
I know we adopted a new dyslexia identification program, protocols at some point in the last year, correct? Am I? It was
No.
the identification and ways to work with those kids.
So we've screened for dyslexia for multiple years. It was highlighted in the READ Act in terms of solidifying it for across the state, but we were already meeting those criteria, and that's one of the reasons that we progress monitor 3 times a year through FastBridge.
Okay, so is every child screened, or are they just identified as potential and then?
Every child is screened
Every
unless
child is
for some
screened.
reason their IEP might dictate that they don't take FastBridge testing, but that's a very small percentage of students.
At what age do we start doing that? The screening?
Kindergarten, when they're entering kindergarten, exiting early childhood if they're with us.
Okay.
And then just to add to that, you know, through the progress monitoring and all of the data meetings that grade level teams do, if something starts to flag, like, that's not right, this isn't, you know, adding up, conversations with families are consistent and start early. So we send home paper copies when a student starts and ends intervention, but they also receive communication from their classroom teacher and or the intervention teacher they're working with. And people are willing to have hard conversations if that's what needs to happen in terms of like, this doesn't seem right. Or, you know, like if they're worried about something, so that there is no surprises for families. Because that can be a hard thing for families to hear, like, oh, my student's not reading at grade level and something might be wrong. So having those conversations early and often are super, super important.
Have we found, or have you found within Otter specifically, or Allison, this could be to you in a general way, a correlation between the results with FastBridge? I know we've only been using it for a little while in some places, but between that and MCAs? Or do we find that there's a gap there?
I
We
can
talk
take it.
about it a lot, actually.
You want to talk
Sure,
about it for
yeah.
Otter? Okay.
So, yeah, I can talk about for Otter. There is a little bit of a gap that we do see sometimes. And so we often, we talk about why our MCA scores tend to be lower than FastBridge. One of the reasons is FastBridge is a screener that it's looking for it's screening skills. And that's how I mentioned MCA is really the whole package. So a student has to be able to take all those skills to answer these questions. You know, MCA is a test that's given on 2 days. If a student is off those 2 days, that could be it. Because sometimes we have students where we say, oh my gosh, on FAST, they were totally at grade level, yet they were not proficient on MCA. We struggle with that, and we do a deep dive on why and what their scores are, to really look at, is it appropriate for them to have intervention moving forward? And sometimes it's not, to be honest. So then it's the conversation, what was happening on the day they took that MCA that possibly influenced that? I think the other thing for Otter that we really started working at the end of this year that will be our focus for next year is how we're engaging with our new literacy curriculum in different strategies. So for example, on the MCA exam, you're able to use tools to highlight, circle, do things like that. We hadn't been doing that in our new literacy curriculum at Otter, partially because some of the books you're not really supposed to write in, right? So brainstorming like, it's really important for students to have that skill, so now we're gonna figure out how we're gonna do that. And practicing that with students, so we did that leading up to the MCA test, and it was really having a high impact right off the bat, in just what we were seeing and on the progress monitoring. So we know now that high impact strategy will carry us into next year, and I'm certain will help us kind of bridge that gap. But there is a little bit of a gap, yep.
So we think of a balanced assessment system for our district, and so FastBridge really, as Ange said, is progress monitoring universal screener that we're required to do by the READ Act, but we also were doing it prior to that. Screens for Dyslexia helps us with those skills as you think about that build for reading comprehension. Then the MCAs really test students aligned to our academic standards. And so that is the test that we talk about. You know, it's an accountability test, comes out in August. And what we have in the middle of trying to help us are our common assessments that we give for students that are aligned to the curriculum. And so for CKLA, our new literacy curriculum that we're in the second year for, we're looking at those assessments and how can we better use that data to also help us and see, okay, with FastBridge, with CKLA, what correlation are we seeing in terms of MCAs? And so we're all working together, and that really is common work across districts in the state to make sure that we have a robust way of seeing how kids are doing and learning to read in school.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes, Ms. Thompson.
Well, my first question was gonna be how many students have IEPs? Because you put it in your goal, so I figured that you had a higher rate of IEPs, so you already answered that one. And then I just think it's important to point out that our current fifth graders are kids who were in kindergarten the year COVID hit. So they basically lost that first year at the end, and then they didn't go back to school until second grade. So when I saw, like at first you would see those numbers and go, oh my gosh, what's going on there? But then you can kind of piece it together and you know what happened to those students. So hopeful to see what the numbers are gonna be the next time we get the numbers for that. And then pretend you're a student, Miss Nelson. Why do we do it?
Oh, the whole chance?
Just the last
The-
question.
oh, because I deserve the best.
Good job, thank you.
You forgot Go Bears.
Go Bears.
Any other questions? I just have one quick question. I'm excited to hear how many kindergartners are enrolled in the Spanish immersion
Oh, yeah.
approximately.
So we have 2 full sections. I think it's 49 at Otter, and I think it's really pretty close at Matoska. Yeah. Mhm.
All right. well,
So we're on track right now at Otter to have 5 sections of kindergarten with potentially a third one if we can, or a 6 if we can fill another immersion class. So
Okay.
it's a lot of kindergartners and we're so excited.
It's gonna be exciting next year.
Mhm.
Okay, hearing that, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
We're gonna move on to discussion item B2, Vadnais Heights Elementary. Dr. Gillespie and Ms. Seer.
Chair, members of the board, I'd like to introduce Sarah Spear, principal of Vadnais Heights Elementary. Hi, Sarah.
Hi. Good evening, everybody. Thanks so much for having me. I'm Sarah Spear, and I've been in this district. This is year 17. I don't know how that's happened, but 3 of my own children went through White Bear Lake schools and graduated and are off doing great things, and the years just kept on tripping by. So it's hard to believe. Being at Vadnais every day is a great adventure. And I want to start this off tonight with our mission statement. Vadnais Heights Elementary is the cornerstone of our community. Together we, and notice that it's at VHES, we value each person as we provide a high-quality education. H, help our community as we prepare students academically and socially. E, enrich lives as we inspire students. And S, safe spaces are created that celebrate diversity and foster lifelong learning. A little bit about our school. We sit right about 400 students, kindergarten through 5th grade. We are a little unique in that we set up 3 K-5 neighborhoods. So there's kindergarten through 5th grade in each, the Grizzlies, the Polars, and the Kodiaks. It creates a great sense of community, and I'll speak more to that in just a bit here. We have near 43% of our population qualifies for free and reduced lunch, which makes us a Title I school. 49% students of color. Near 18% of our school receives multilingual services. 19.3% in special education, and Vadnais hosts a cluster program in EBD for emotional and behavior disabilities. We also have a Tier 2 program for students on the autism spectrum or developmentally cognitively delayed. And finally, I said 100% amazing, and I'm referencing our students, our families, and our staff. We also had 3 goals for this year, one on literacy and our equity goal. Both of those are focused on proficiency. In KN1, it's the early reading assessment and FAST. In 2 through 5, it's the A reading assessment and FAST. And our equity goal is specific to students in 3 through 5, looking at their reading proficiency. It's such a large percent of our population with approximately 20 different languages spoken in our school that it's key that we focus on the needs of these kids and how we can best support them. And I'm so excited to say that the new curriculum and the program that goes along to support ML aligns with what they get in the classroom, so they have the opportunity to have the content pre-taught before their classroom teacher teaches the information, and that sets them up for success. We also have a student experience goal where we're surveying the students, and we look at this information and then we try to figure out how we can make our school better. What do we need to bring forward to better meet their needs, to make each day better? If it's helping them get to school, getting them or their families to the closet, and our school is one who, I go to the closet a lot, the thrift store right here within our campus. It's to the point that I get phone calls, emails, I've met them there, because all of a sudden they wake up and the kids don't have shoes. So I spend a fair amount of time, they know me by first name at the ALC, and she's here again, give her the key. And I love to do it because it's what our families need. We also, with the addition of the new social worker full-time, Bear Care is a huge hit, and Carrie Zerbel is her name. She does a great job to help our families get the immunizations, to get medical care and treatment, which they otherwise might not be able to afford. So looking a little bit closer at our literacy goal based on proficiency, here you can see kindergarten and first grade in the early reading assessment from fall to winter. And I, of course, wish it were all green, meaning low risk, but I am very excited about the growth that our kids are showing. These students have only experienced the new curriculum, CCALA, and I especially am proud of the information at first grade. It's our second year working with CCALA, and the curriculum spirals. So what they learned in kindergarten comes back again in first grade, and to be in the classrooms and hear the kids share, remember, celebrate what they know about key concepts, whether it's history or whatever it might be. It's exciting and it's good for kids, and it invigorates them to work harder, read, and learn. Here's our results for students 2 through 5. I used a different format than what Ange just showed, but you can see in blue, it's the kiddos who would come up as advanced. Green is low risk, yellow is some risk, and red is high risk. My whole school wishes the data were consistent throughout, yet I also recognize some of these kids coming into CCALA as, let's say, for example, a 4th grader, because it does spiral, it assumes that they have some of this knowledge already in their skill bank, and we need to build that. So watching our kindergartners and first grade go through the system and through using CCALA, I'm really excited to see future results, but the staff, all of us, are doing our very best to get these kids going and keep them on track in their learning. A big part of the student experience and family experience are the community engagement and partnerships that we have. Being the only public school in Vadnais Heights, we partner very closely with the city of Vadnais. Last week, we had the city manager out for Earth Day. If you've been in Vadnais, you see that they're working really hard in our backyard, our Bears backyard, we call it. We have 7 acres back there, and they're building a roadway back because it is a water source for much of the North Metro area. And if there were any troubles, no one in this room living in the area would have water. And the kids were very curious how this impacts the water flow. The city manager came out and shared, and it's just a great partnership to work with them. Safe sidewalks to school, the Vadnais Heights Days. There have been many opportunities to partner, and it's fun. The Vadnais Heights Fire Department is over quite frequently. They spend a week with us over Fire Prevention Week in October. The Lions are very good to us. We do some community partnerships with food and toy drives. This year, they were very generous in providing all of our classrooms updated globes and maps and document cameras so kids could see them projected up on the wall. Klein Nissan is a new partnership, and Sustainable Automotive. They reached out, and we partnered with them last week. Every student in 1st and 3rd grade went home with a sapling, with parent permission, of course, because trees are the Earth's ventilators. And kids heard all about it and were very excited to go home with their sapling. Kids Hope is a program that's available across the United States. We've partnered with them for 12 years. And what it looks like at Vadnais Heights, it's retired professional senior citizens coming in, and we work very hard to determine kids who need that little extra something special. It might be a gifted student who needs more challenge. I can think of a kiddo right now. He's brilliant, and he's got a retired engineer doing some really cool stuff with him, and he looks forward to every Tuesday. Other kids might just need that special person to give them that one-on-one attention. So whatever kids need, they can get it through Kids Hope. The University of Minnesota, they actually host a college course on site at Vadnais. It's a Reading Buddies class. That's what we call it. They call it whatever they call it. But the undergraduate students, it's a class about teaching literacy. And then we determine the classes with the highest needs, and they push in to support and either read to the children or the kids read to them. So a class of 25 going into our classes of approximately the same size. It works out great. In addition, we've been a partner with them for 15 years. We have year-long graduate student teaching placement. It's grown. I've pushed and encouraged, and to tell you, next year we're looking at 16 sections at Vadnais. I have 8 year-long student teachers coming to be at our school. We have a reputation for teaching them well, helping them find jobs, and our students benefit, our teachers benefit. It's a great, great partnership. Children's Performing Arts was another partnership that we just began this year for the first time. 2 weeks ago, our 4th and 5th grade students, 33 of them, performed 101 Dalmatians at the Hannaful Performing Arts Center, and it was just a blast. So a great thing for us to do. Right within the building, we hosted our first Community Connections and Conversations. That was in the 2nd week of school. And I have to be honest, there were parents very skeptical to come. One dad actually said, I feel like this is a timeshare sales. When do I have to buy something? And as I visited with families around the room, many of them were skeptical that we wanted something from them. So in my welcome that evening, I made sure to say, we're here for you. Dinner is free. We want to know how we can best meet the needs for your kids, for your family, make our school the best place it can be. And it was great. And they said, will you please do this again? So I hope we have that opportunity to do it in the future. The other thing that we do in our neighborhoods, the K-5 neighborhoods, the teachers of the Grizzlies, the Polars, and the Kodiaks each take on the responsibility to host one evening event. So the Grizzlies do the Bear Bash. We do that on the Friday night of Halloween weekend. And yes, there are costumes, but it's beyond the school day, and safe costumes too. And it's a great opportunity for families to meet other families of the kids, the friends their kids are playing with. So they can set up play dates, make connections, and visit. We don't have an agenda that night other than we want people to visit with their child's teacher and make connections. We do a parade of costumes. We have free food. And it's a blast. We usually get over 800 people. And on our playground, if I don't get in too much trouble with the police stopping traffic, life is good. In the winter, snow much fun. And this year, the Polar neighborhood mixed it up. It started out with a family game night, and the building was full. Every room had families playing games with their kids and staff. And then we ended the evening with our kindergarten, first and second grade concert. And it was more than a concert. They actually invited parents up, one parent up, to come dance with the kids. And the videos are unbelievable, just crazy times. Spring Extravaganza is coming up May 8th. That's a community service learning project. And this year, the Kodiaks are doing kindness with chalk. So going out into the community and spreading positive messages through chalk on the sidewalks, and you might see it all over the place, and hopefully we won't have a rainy day like today. And then that evening, we will also have a concert by our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students. Our PTO, although small, it's very hard to get parents involved, works very hard to fundraise for us. They support all of our classrooms financially. They support all of our field trips. Each grade level takes 1 trip a year, and we're very strategic in setting it up so each grade level has a unique and different experience. But we want to keep kids in the classroom and focused on learning and make sure they hit all the required content, and so they really look forward to those events. School-wide climate and culture. Every day we have bear time, and bears at our school is brave, empathetic, aware, responsible, and safe. And we tie that to our social emotional learning time that we have in our morning meeting each day. And it's set up by our building. So this week, for example, the message is all about sorry is just a word. And we're teaching kids why apologizing is important and how to do it. So it's giving lessons for primary age kids that are specific to their learning level, and 3, 4, and 5 students, they look a little bit different. But the whole school is talking about when you say you're sorry, what it should look, sound, and feel like. And it really makes an impact on our building. Every Friday, our 5th graders do the news over the system, so it's shown into the classrooms. If you're not familiar, Veterans Day is a big event at Vadnais Heights Elementary. We have celebrated it as long as I've been there, and it's all about teaching kids why this holiday is important, and then students have the opportunity to invite in moms and dads, grandparents, aunts and uncles, or close family friends who are veterans, and we honor them. And it usually brings about a few tears, but through a message and learning for kids, as well as music, it's really cool. Community service projects, I've mentioned a few of those. And finally, I'll share March Book Madness. When everyone else in the world is probably filling out a bracket for basketball, we are working on a book bracket. Our staff are reading books within the school. Kids are voting each week which book they like better. And the big bracket on the wall is whittled down to one main winner. And it's a big deal, and to get kids so excited about books, it's just cool. So as we finish the year strong, we have 5 or 6 weeks to go. There's still plenty to do. We will have spring assessments, both academic and social emotional, which will start the middle of May. School-wide run club brought to our school by the staff. About 50% of our student population will participate. So we'll have about 200 kids out running starting Wednesday. At the end of it, we have a color run, and that's our whole school. So during the school day, every single student will participate, and we do that with great intention that it's during the day. Once upon a time, we did it in the evening, and too many of our kiddos couldn't get back to school. This way, every kid is part of this great fun. We'll have a talent show, field day, all of these things right on our own field at school. We'll have a survey once again for both students and parents this spring. What's going well and what can we do better? Tomorrow, we're never done. We got to keep the momentum going. So Educators Thriving is doing a presentation for all of my staff after school tomorrow, and it's focused on the core values. This time of year, it gets hard. You need to keep pushing, you need to keep working, you need to keep your energy up, and it gets tough. And tomorrow, they're gonna get a boost from Educators Thriving. The spring extravaganza will be exciting, and we'll have the student concert and community service project for the kids and families and staff. A final thought, Vadnais Heights Elementary is a proud neighborhood school with strong community connections, a commitment to students and learning, and a belief in the power of partnering with parents to support every child's success. What questions might you have?
Do we have any questions?
I have a question.
Okay, Ms. Daniels first?
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Thank you. It sounds, it's so remarkable, all the connections and all the community partnerships you have and how enthusiastically you represent them all. It's really great. I just have one question, maybe you don't have the answer. Is there much turnover in terms of families coming or going in your school and in your building? Moving in, moving out, or is that not something you usually see in that kind of a neighborhood school? I know in some schools it's different for different reasons.
I don't think I don't have a number. Our turnover rate isn't that great. We of course have some, but it's not significant.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Scar?
Thank you. I was the night custodian at that school district back in 1981, believe it or not.
You're
I
kidding.
cleaned the boilers out. I had to throw the clothes out that I used to clean the boilers. So I'm wondering, did they get a new boiler and burner set? Is it still oil or is it natural gas now?
Beats me. I don't know. Tim? No. It's likely the same one. Okay. As long as it works, I'm good. I'm not sure.
Fair enough. What's the capacity at that school district for students?
Well, that's a good question too. When I came, there were 550 students in that building, but the class sizes were incredibly large. We also didn't have preschool. The multilingual population wasn't near as large, needing the space. The special ed programs, we didn't offer as many as we have now. And so the building looked much different with 550 students. I'd say 420, 430 is a good number. Right now, we're feeling pretty full with 18 classroom sections, but we're very creative in how we use this space.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Ms. Beloit?
When the boundary change that we had, how did that affect the numbers within your school? Is it just more last couple of years where you've seen the increase, or you've been pretty full for a while?
It truly wasn't significant. There were a few families on the north end, and some of those chose to continue at Otter. Some of them were already choosing to attend Vadnais because as families commuted to work, they dropped their kids off on the way, so the impact was insignificant.
Could you, as a Title I school, you're having to deal with a lot of different types of situations with students and parents and teachers having to teach all of those different groups. Can you maybe talk a little bit about the importance of why it's important to focus on the whole child as opposed to just teaching them to read, teaching them to do math, and if we're only doing those things, what happens to those students?
So when I start conversations with families, I often start with, I want your child to love school. And to love school, that means they have friends, they're learning, they're growing, they feel good inside, and they can take home the worksheet or whatever they might have done in the classroom with pride. And so it's looking at each individual situation and talking to mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or whomever I might be visiting with and trying to get to the root of what's going on. As a BAR school, building assets, reducing risks, the structure that we have in place for MTSS or the multi-tiered systems of support, I love it. That was in here and I forgot to talk about that. But every week we have a meeting. So in the first and third weeks, we have our grade level teams, and the second and fourth weeks, we have our neighborhood meetings, or as Barr calls it, Big Block, and it allows us to focus on data, as well as that information from the teachers who work with that kiddo, including the specialists, what they do well, where they succeed, are they a good friend, maybe they have great rhythm. Whatever it is that we can find, we can build on, we're using all of our resources to just focus in on that child and make it specific and individualized. So I think it's just about looking at each kid. When you look at all of the data, I also say this, you know, if you're going and looking for our school report card, you might not be overwhelmed and go, wow, that's a school that I necessarily would choose compared to others. But I always encourage families to look at your individual child, see where they started and where they're growing, because they're making great gains. And if they're not, we're gonna work with them and come up with a plan to ensure that they do.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much. Good luck. Have a great end of your year here.
It's gonna be busy, come
Yes,
on
it
by.
And now, as Mr. Scars, could you know, when we need that boiler cleaned, we'll give you a call.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
won't be able to fit it in anymore.
All right, we want to go on to B3, one of subjects that's near and dear to my heart, so career pathways. Ms. Babish and Ms. Olson.
Chair Arkin, members of the board, I'll introduce Katie Olson, our Career Pathways Coordinator, and Russ Reitz, our high school principal.
All right, thanks for having us. I am the Career Pathways Coordinator, as Dr. Gillespie mentioned. Along with my principal here, we're here to talk about the Career Pathways program that not every school district has, and I always like to mention that we're really lucky here at White Bear Lake to have the support to have this programming, which I will talk to you about and what we've been up to this school year. We've had extra impact with a new high school building. So thank you for shifting gears with us from the elementary level up to secondary now. We can age up a little bit. Career Pathways really has a structure kind of nationwide of how we look at what is a Career Pathways program, what does it entail. Oftentimes career and technical education is thrown into some of this work, but really we look at it as a bridge. So there's programming and experiences and academic classes that we can offer our students to help them be much more confident for life after high school. That is really the goal. We are proud to share that all of these elements you see on the screen in front of you are things that we offer at the secondary level in our ALC, in our main high school building. These are all the pieces really that are gonna set students up for a more confident choice after high school. Something you see on the screen in front of you, and I'm sure Dr. Arcan's familiar with this, but just came out in the fall of 2024 is an updated what's called career clusters. This is from the Association for Career and Technical Education, a national organization that basically updated what was about 10 to 15 years old, data about what do jobs look like across the country and how do we clump them together. Why am I mentioning this and is it important? This change, and you can read a little description on the screen, is how school districts function, industry functions, our workforce systems, how do we all interact together, and what are we training and educating our youth and our adult learners about and for? What does that look like? Funding will stream in these same kind of sectors, and so you'll see workforce saying, hey, we need more folks in this area, and then secondary folks saying, okay, well, we want to get you those workers, we want to get youth excited about this, so we all work together. To bring it back, if you heard of, in Minnesota, we have a career wheel. Lots of folks have that in their classrooms, you see it again in the workforce centers. That is now going to be updated, probably I think they thought by like 2027, it'd take a while, to align with these new career clusters. So a lot of what work we do in the school district is going to funnel down from what you see here in these national career clusters. So also important, we stay in touch with our Perkins leaders. Federal Perkins funding is really important to the Career Pathways program. But we also stay in touch with real-time talent a lot on what's our labor industry like and our workforce needs. So labor and industry can change really fast. Our secondary school districts, not always as fast. And so this 10-year outlook is really important and impactful for us. So this would be looking at the old career wheel. 12 of the 16 clusters that are in existence in that career wheel are expected to decline in employment in Ramsey County specifically in the next 10 years. But 4 clusters are going to show growth. You can see those on your screen. So that's a trigger for us in the school system to say, okay, what are we teaching in our schools? What do we need to ramp up? Where do we maybe need to pivot? And we start thinking about the next school year, and you might see course proposals and things like that coming across your desks to reflect and follow along with these areas of need we're gonna have right in our county. Of course, we'd like to educate our youth and get them excited about careers and then keep them here locally. So a lot of this kind of outside conversation of things happening outside the school district are really important to, I like to emphasize what we do in the school district and what we're offering our students. We want it to be relevant. We want it to be updated. So something exciting that's happening partnership-wise, it's really important to stay in touch with our industry. I sit on the Washington County Partnership. This is a brand new group, and we service students in Washington County, which is why we also participate in activities and initiatives that they're doing. And it's all of the secondary schools have a representative on this committee. We have all of our executive directors and CEOs from the Chambers of Commerce for every city in Washington County, and the county officials, county commissioners come, and we sit and talk about how are we bridging youth to industry, work experiences, where are the gaps, where do we need support, and what conversations do we need to be having. As far as we know, we're the only work group for Washington County that exists in the entire state having these conversations, so we're kind of excited to lead the way. And obviously we're excited as our school district to be in that group. I also partner regularly with the White Bear Area Chamber of Commerce and the Vadnais Heights Economic Development Council. Those industry partnerships are critical so they know what we're doing in our schools, they know what our needs are, and then that's how we can offer opportunities to students as well, to give students those real world experiences, get the industry and employers into the classroom and working firsthand with students. Also important in this work is the Minnesota Concurrent Enrollment Partnerships. So concurrent enrollment is something that even in current technical education you can offer students because they might have to go to college, they might have to get a degree still, they might go right into workforce, they might not. So being able to offer those students hands-on college credit classes in the high school is a great incentive, can really light the fire in students and say, hey, I already completed a college class. We all know this, the world's best workforce. We want our students to complete some college. They have a greater persistence rate than if they graduate and go to college. So we are excited to continue engagement in that partnership as well. And then work on thinking, a little forward thinking with work-based learning. That is a national movement that we don't want to miss the train on. And so we are talking to industry partners, and we have some teacher champions that are excited to navigate with our new trimester system and our new high school building. How can we offer work experiences for students built kind of into the school day? They get college credit, they sit with a teacher, they talk about what they're doing in the workplace. So we're excited to see where that leads us as well. All right, so what is some of what our students have been doing this year? Something that you might remember from the bridge that I showed you, industry credentials, can be really impactful for students to earn when they're in high school and help them get a job after high school or while they're in high school in a field of interest to them. So these are some of the numbers we have from what our students have been doing this school year. OSHA 10, if you're familiar with that, that's typically kind of construction, trade and industry, workplace safety. We have students in a construction class that go through that, and some of our students at the ALC. Certified nursing assistant, we'll talk about that again in a couple slides here. But we had the maximum class size is 21, so they're small classes anyway, and that's state mandated. But 16 students got their certified nursing assistant certification, and they can work in the workplace. And we have a whole nother semester of students completing that right now. Ford ACE, this is actually one of our stellar programs we have, and I'll talk about that at the end as well. They had a little data snafu on their end, where I questioned what they sent me for an update this year, and they said, you know what, we gotta look into this. So Ford ACE is sponsored by Ford Automotive. It is a high school secondary curriculum where students are actually completing Ford training to be a technician. So it looks fabulous on their resume if they do wanna work at a Ford dealership. Maybe they're going into an automotive program and they're gonna even go in and sweep the floors, right? And you just start, you get your foot in the door. It really looks great on their resume. And there's also a simultaneous 2-year program at Hennepin Technical College. That's the next level up. First aid and CPR, all of our 10th grade health students take first aid and CPR in their 10th grade health class. They all meet the curriculum and are eligible to take the certification exam. Not all of them do. There's a nominal fee of $5, but we did have 92 students already this year get their first aid and CPR certification. And then we'll talk more about this as well, ServSafe. So that's for the service industry, if you will, and this is tied into our school grounds coffee shop we have on site, and then our culinary classes. We have a lot of students going through that as well, so they could understand workplace safety, sanitation, and food safety. We had a really big endeavor we took on this last school year in December, and we started the planning January of last year. And you may have heard about it. We did get a little spotlight. I think it was Channel 5 News, which was exciting. But we partnered with Royal Credit Union to offer test drive. So I have some of my description over here in my notes. Our entire junior class went through this simulation. It is a hands-on simulation where students visited a variety of stations to make key life decisions and manage a monthly budget. So to back up, about the week before they went through this event, in their social studies class, they all got to sit down and say, what do I want? What do I think my dream career is? What do I want to do? Okay, let's back it up. Do I need to go to college to do that job or not? And if I do, what kind of degree do I need? 2-year, 4-year, 8-year for, medical, things like that. And then, okay, now I know what kind of degree I need. Do I need to go to, let me pick a college. And then they picked their college of choice and figured out what their 4-year tuition rate would be, or an annual tuition rate if they broke it down. So they went into this simulation having made that decision. Here's what I think I want to do, and now here's my college plan and budget based off that. Students were required to go through the simulation, living off their career's monthly salary, while paying for things like student loans, insurance, housing, and groceries, as well as accounting for additional expenses like entertainment, pets, life surprises. We had our SROs going around the simulation handing out random speeding tickets and things like that. So that was a fun extra. And at the end we had about 200 volunteers that came in from the community, and I know some of you were there, so you got to see it firsthand. We did a student survey at the end, and then we also did a volunteer survey. So I'd like to share a few quotes with you. Students were asked, did you learn anything new? And if so, what did you learn? One of the students said, I learned that saving money is important. Another student said, I learned how much work goes into budgeting. And our last student I'll highlight said, I learned a lot about how much things cost, and it made me more aware of my lifestyle and how I live. Our volunteers shared, the students were extremely engaged. I was really impressed. Another volunteer said, I was near the end of the stations. It was great to hear the students review their prior decisions and think about how a different choice could have helped them out. And our final volunteer said, it was fun to interact with the students and to watch them navigate this activity. There were some definite light bulb moments as they worked to balance their budgets. Many of them developed a deeper appreciation for what their families and guardians have to deal with each month. And this was a great activity because it was all free of charge from Royal Credit Union. They really just want to foster financial literacy. That's part of their mission as an organization. And we're lucky to be one of the handful of schools that they've chosen to partner with on this activity. The last time I was here as well, we talked about a brand new grant. We had just been awarded Grow Your Own from the Department of Education. We have taken it upon ourselves to call our program in the district the Future Bear Educators. And this has been a really fun program to watch blossom, and it just started this spring semester. We took our fall semester to take one of our champion teachers, and she stepped in as a program coordinator to really build out what is this going to look like. She's concurrent enrollment, met those requirements. We're offering our classes through Minneapolis College. And really this program was to foster students getting excited about teaching, and especially to diversify the workplace. In the end, with hoping that our students were going to go off and do their training to become a teacher and then come back to us. And so we did have some goals for our first class. We just offered one class this first semester, Intro to Urban Education, again with Minneapolis College. We have 18 students enrolled, which was more than our goal. I think our goal was 15. And then in partnership, our students get to go out and they do a field experience. And so it was a perfect setup when we worked with Mr. Maurer over there and some other folks. They had a need with their extended day program. They had a wait list, and they said, we need to hire high school students. We've been trying. What's going on? And we said, well, we might have 18 here for you. Let's partner. And so we have some students have requirements that, that limit them to being able to travel or do this experience after work, in which we've set up other opportunities for them. But 14 of the students are in 8 different elementary school extended day programs, and within Mariner Middle School's Avid Tutor program. And I think we eliminated the wait list.
Very close.
Very close.
I'll chime in real quick. So we're super appreciative of it. We're really excited about where it's going to go in the future. I don't know, my voice tends to carry. But, if you average 10 to 13 elementary kids per the 14 kids, that's the impact this program has on us and our wait list and supporting our families that need that care. So we're super appreciative. We're really excited and very thankful.
Yeah, and we'll talk about our sections for this, I think, in another slide, but it took off, and we've got more sections of this, and students excited for the next school year. Students who have completed this first class then move on to the second and third and fourth tier classes next school year. There'll be 5 total in the program, all through Minneapolis College. And important to note, our goal for year 1 was to match the student demographics in our classes with our district-wide demographics, which was at 30% students who identify as a student of color. We have 78% of our students enrolled that identify as a student of color. We also have 2 school-based enterprises, as we call them, in our building, which is really exciting. A coffee shop, that is, as the kids call it, super Riz, I think. But not, right? Coffee's the thing these days. And so this School Grounds is an actual class out of our culinary program. But we have a real coffee shop. If you haven't seen it, I'm guessing you all have. That's open during the school day in our building. And students are learning how to work in the service industry, how to manage their peers, how to work with supervisors. They're going through this Serve Safe training. They're also learning about roasting coffee and flavor profiles. And so a lot of these students are interested maybe in having a small business someday. So you can see some of the highlights here that are on the screen. It's been a really great opportunity. We can also support a lot of our students that work in are part of our special education programming. And then our nutrition services actually was able to create a position and hire a student manager. That is the one position that's paid through this class and programming. The rest of the students carved out an hour of their school day to do it for credit. But we got to hire a student manager as well. So that person then will be responsible, I think, next year for doing more of the supervision of their fellow classmates and that school store. So that's been really fun to watch. And feel free to stop by if you want to get a latte or something. We have another school-based enterprise called the Roar Store. That is more of your school spirit store, school swag. That is run through our business program. And that was kind of a pilot this year of how did it work, how did it go. We learned a lot, and our business departments decided they're going to separate out. We're going to still start our DECA program, which is a student-based organization where they get to learn all about business. They can go to competitions and things like that, do some extra work in the business world if that's their area of interest. But then there's a merchandising class as well, where they're going to learn this store management, inventory, product design, things like that. So we are going to be doing a ribbon cutting coming up here in May with the Chamber of Commerce. We did that for our coffee shop. We haven't been able to do that for our school store, but we have a couple big name alumni that we're looking to highlight. And one of those is, if you've heard the brand Legendary, it's a golf apparel line. Brock, the owner who started it, he's a White Bear alumni, and he's really excited to partner, and we got a banner that highlights so we can show students. Brock, I think he was class of 2008. He's the owner of Legendary. Like, this could be you. We have alumni banners in a lot of our career pathway spaces, so students can see what their predecessors are doing now. All right, enrollment. So it was really fun to see as we moved to trimesters. Tons of work for the teachers. I got to tag along for a ride and kind of talk with them about new ideas and innovation, and then see what struck the students. What did they want to register for based out of what the teachers put out there? So some of the highlights for our new classes this coming school year. We are still in the works of piecing together what we would call a visual communications career pathway program. I know Mr. Reitz over here has got all kinds of ideas about what he wants to do with it. But two of our initial classes that are, one's through business, and then one through kind of art in our communication department, are both sports related. And so those took off booming with like 4 sections or 8 sections each or something. So that's going to be really fun to see how they partner together. That's kind of that same pathway. We are going to start a drones class. Students will get their drones pilot license through this class. We, surprisingly or not, have a number of students who are interested in getting their private pilot's license and are pursuing that. So this was kind of one way to help engage those students. But also, this is, you may or may not know, a really up and coming area in industry. You can use drones in probably every industry, and so to have that pilot's license is, I think the average income starting out is like $80,000. So we were really excited to take advantage of that. And our teacher went and got her drones pilot license because that's what she has to have. And so it's been really fun to watch it play out. Computer hardware technology. In our school building, we have a tech hub. If you've seen that, it's in our learning commons. The vision behind that was always to have our students, if you're familiar with Summer Tech Depot, they get to work on Chromebooks, take them apart, do all the things, tinker with them on a more official basis rather than just at home. What our vision was always to bring that into the school day, and how can students be doing that for their peers and for staff for that matter. So a computer hardware technology class is going to more formalize that technology, working on computer hardware curriculum and experience for students. And we actually have 2 partners, industry partners, that are really excited to work with us and have come to us and said, we want to hire your students, we'll work with your schedule, get them a little bit of training, and then we'll bring them on. And so that's one of those maybe work-based learning opportunities we're hoping to see come to fruition. We will be offering first aid and CPR as a standalone college concurrent enrollment class with Anoka Ramsey. That took off with like 7 or 8 sections or 4 sections or something too, which was crazy. But that's important because first aid CPR, that class offers the BLS certification, which is required to get into nursing programs, any emergency medical services programs, which are all really important and popular right now. So now students don't have to go to college or take an extra class to do that after they've graduated high school to get into a nursing program. They can say, check, we already did that in high school. Certified nursing assistant has over doubled. No, I guess I don't know what you call that, tripled. Not exactly tripled, but in its sections for next year also, that's also a concurrent enrollment class. We partner with Century College on that. And then Intro to Healthcare Careers, another concurrent enrollment class with Century, really took off, so that was exciting. Also unique, and I emailed out a lot of my school district partners and said, hey, who's offering math for the trades? We're looking for curriculum. And they all said, we're not, and we really wish we were. Tell us what you do, what you pick. We want to know about it. So that was amazing that our math department said, we want to dabble in this. We see there's a need, a different way for students to learn math and to use it. And students wanted to take it, right? That was the next thing. So that's going to be really exciting to roll out, kind of watch to see how we make strides there. Digital photography is a class we've offered for a while, but we had twice the enrollment in that class coming up next year. And then a slight increase for our intro to construction trades and small engines. All right, I'm getting close to wrapping up, I promise. We talked about this at our Systems Accountability Committee meeting last week. I was presented with the data you see in front of you back in March at a conference that I went to, where the organization Advanced CTE did some national polling last fall to see where our constituencies across the country, how they felt about career and technical education. And I wanted to be able to share that with you. We tied it back last week then to some of our feedback from our folks here in the district. And really, if you'll see nationally, that folks at middle school and high school level were presented with different areas of the high school experience, and were asked to rank where they felt these areas fell in importance for their students' experience. They either ranked a 1, 2, or 3. The areas you see on the screen, and obviously in order, right? The most picked 1, 2, or 3 for the top one, and so forth. So as a school district, it's exciting to see that we are doing all of these things as it relates to career preparation, career and technical education, just exposure for students to be able to make a more confident choice. It was also exciting to see that that's important nationwide to what's happening within the walls of our schools these days. As we compare it, this isn't an exact comparison, because what we did last week was we did a poll, and it was just ranking it. It wasn't grouped like 1, 2, or 3. I don't know what each individual picked. But I wanted to compare it to what our folks at the meeting last week responded on, where they felt that each area was of importance to them. So a little bit different than what you see nationally, but again, it doesn't exactly align with how they did the ranking of 1, 2, or 3. So some of this might be surprising, some of it might not, but we're doing all of it. The last thing that I'll wrap up with, we're really excited and proud of our automotive instructor, Mr. Dusher, and all of the programming and work that's happening in our automotive career pathway. I don't think it's come out as a public statement yet, but our Minnesota State Center, or Transportation Center of Excellence, selected our automotive career pathway as exemplary secondary program of the year in the entire state of Minnesota. So this was for a program that showcases secondary level transportation that serves as an exemplary model of institutional support, instructional leadership, and program-wide excellence. And this is a big thank you to everyone in the school district, from top to bottom, to teachers, to the students, to make this a success. That's it. Yeah. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions for them? Oh, Ms. Daniels.
How do we partner with the Career and Tech School 916 offers? Do we partner with them, and do the kids go there because we don't have, or we go back and forth? I know they have an automotive, we have an automotive, but they have cosmetology. We don't, I know we have like 90 students in that program, or 95, I think is the last count.
Yes, great question. So 916 Career Tech Center services 16 different schools. They are a fabulous resource because they primarily exist because our schools can't have everything. And so we do have some overlap in what we offer and what they offer. At that point, students, we hope, would choose our programming, but may choose to go to 916. 916 offers diesel. We don't offer diesel. They offer auto dismantling, taking the cars apart. That's not part of our curriculum. So there's some nuances there. But overall, we're very supportive of students going there, especially when it's not something we offer in our building. We don't have the infrastructure to have. So cosmetology is a great example. We're lucky. Our students are lucky that they have the opportunity to go there and work in that clinic or salon there. And dental careers is amazing opportunity because, right, those are things that we couldn't offer. So we really feel that's an extension of our Career Pathways program.
Great. We bus our kids.
Yes.
If they select that,
Yes.
they have a way to get there.
Yep, I think we have 2 different time blocks or waves that our
Yes.
students can go in. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions? Mr. Scar?
Thank you for presenting.
Sorry.
What are our numbers that participate in this program? Are they increasing, decreasing, flat? Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I can. So our easiest metric to measure is course enrollment, which isn't
Right.
all of what Pathways offers. But as far as course enrollment, we've doubled for next year, actually. We had about 2,700 students in career pathway classes this year. We're at 5,400 for next year. So I think trimesters has been huge in supporting the opportunity for students to have more choice and take more things that really strike them, along with our teachers having great innovative ideas that are moving and shaking and taking advantage of the wonderful facilities we have in the building now too. And then I do track the outside of programming and events and speakers and things like that we put on, and I track those numbers. I think those numbers certainly have grown because now we have the opportunity for our 9th and 10th graders to participate, where before it maybe was, here's the one event at the high school for South Campus for 10th and 11th grade students. Now how can we do something but maybe a little more beginner for the 9th and 10th graders? And then that engagement wasn't always there, but now with the older students, 9th and 10th graders are much more apt, more comfortable. They'll just pop in for this, that, or the other thing, so.
So now I have suggestions
Wonderful.
that you can think about. One of them is, and I used to be a speaker in the St. Paul Public Schools to try to get kids interested in accounting. Tough sell, tough sell. But we are in such a shortage of CPAs right now that they're doing all kinds of gymnastics to try to get people licensed to do that work. So anything you can do to boost up the numbers in that area would be key. Your IT program, there's IT and then there's OT, operation technology, which operates our infrastructure. There's a lot of cybersecurity risk related to that. How can we get kids and students to get interested in cybersecurity at an early age? Because that's the best time to do it. They're curious, and they probably would make the best applicants for that in the future. So that's one. Even getting somebody to talk about cybersecurity, would be, I think, helpful. And then related to construction, driver safety credentials, that would be one. I mean, like safe defensive driving, that's usually a requirement for a lot of trade, construction trades and things like that, where you have to drive a truck back and forth from a work site. That's another one. And then on the, just 2 more. On the retail side, do you do like customer service, role playing on what, when you're communicating with a customer, how you approach the customer, those types of things? Do we do that?
Do you know what?
Well, we don't necessarily do role playing, but our students are serving the community. So if you come to an event, this store is often open. So they are in a real, commerce type situation where they're providing customer service to those, patrons as they enter that.
So there's a
school
train, you do a training for how to interact with customers, customer service. What's the expectations for good customer service?
Right.
I imagine
The other one was with, I'm familiar with the PSEO, but I was curious, I know it applies with community colleges, but what about with trade schools? Because you can, if somebody in their junior, senior year could take like the classroom tests or the classroom classes and test out of that, and then they can do the hands-on after they graduate, is that something that is done across the state, or is anybody doing something like
So
that?
separating the two, so, I'm not sure I fully understand.
Well, there's two aspects when you're to the trade. There's the classroom aspect, and then there's the hands-on aspect. So I'm wondering if they can break that apart so that the classroom aspect they can do here, get credit for it, and then after they graduate, they do the hands-on piece. I don't know if you could split it. I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
Yeah, so I don't think you could, but I don't think you have to. That is part of what we are trying to embed with concurrent enrollment classes in our school, is that, and especially in tech ed, that's oftentimes where like Century College, that's their niche of coming in with a concurrent enrollment class that is the college class, and it's both the theoretical and then the hands-on, because I think you have to do both at the same time. I think that's important, and a lot of our teachers, the value of a high school teacher teaching it instead of the college professors, they can also teach the technical reading piece of it, of here's the theory, here's how you read the textbook, it's a little different, but maybe you also kind of get it a little better, and then how you apply it.
Okay, I got it. It's helpful, thanks.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Wait, sorry. No, I didn't see you.
Ms. Ellison.
Thank you. So I have a comment and a question. I was at the systems accountability meeting last week and shared that my daughter is involved in the Intro to Urban Education. I had no idea this was even a thing. And she came home and she said, I'm doing this thing because a teacher recommended me. And she had not had any sort of focus to what she wanted to do after high school until this program. And there's such a teacher shortage right now all over the country. And I love the fact that White Bear it has the trades, has construction, has automotive, but is also focused on education as an important career pathway for our students. So it's been tremendously helpful for her, and I really look forward to the growth in that as well. So my question is, I love the idea of math for the trades. And so that you said came out of the math department. It makes me wonder, like, what are the other departments, like, are there other writing for the trades? Because in every position you ever have, you're gonna have to do some writing of some kind. Are there classes that are percolating that are similar to this?
Well, we're meeting with language arts teachers tomorrow, and they're working on some innovative course offerings. One of them is technical writing and technical reading for the trades. So we could see this expand across other departments. But yeah, everyone is sort of looking at what they could provide, with a certain pathway where students can come in and out of a pathway and have an experience within their department. So we hope it grows.
And I think to touch on Mr. Scar's comment as well about customer service. So part of what we'd see, and I have a paper visual if you want a copy afterwards, is our Career Pathways course guide. It's a visual for families to understand what classes really are in automotive. And this is going to be my example. And then what classes are affiliated, meaning part of kind of the general education core curriculum. What of that might tell me as a student, oh, I'm interested in those things, I should look at the automotive field, or I'm good at those things, I should look at the automotive field. Our teachers pick those affiliated courses. So our career and technical education, or pathway teachers, are not all CTE, picked affiliated courses. Mr. Dusher on the screen in front of you picked public speaking as an affiliated course. He said, these students have no idea how important it is because of all the customer facing they're doing, the confidence and the professionalism they need to have when they're reporting back to their clients what happened. They need to document things. People are complaining. How do you handle that? So that was part of our tie-in to make that connection. It's exciting to hear about language arts, and if I dare to be so bold to make a plug, so for example, Math for the Trades is currently an elective. There is a push by the Department of Education to make classes like that part of the core requirements and count towards the math requirements. So, wink, wink.
I really like the idea of putting out a path or putting out the classes in front of students so they can see where they connect, because I think a lot of students, they look at, I mean, I can only speak for the ones that live in my house, they look at the course catalog and they're like, a lot of this, right? And so I love that you're setting it up so they can see their skills and then also see the path. So I think that's wonderful. And one more question I thought of, I forget what the name of the event is, Miss Olson, but it's the one where you have community members come in and talk to sophomores.
The mock interviews.
Yes, is that happening again this year?
Yeah, that just happened in January.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it happens every January though.
I missed it. It's
You must-
such a great event. Highly recommend that everybody participate. Thank you.
Kathleen?
Oh, yes. Oh.
I
Well,
don't know
I'll-
who was first. I thought you
I
had
don't know.
something.
Yes, I did have a
Go ahead.
comment, and it was only to say that I'm so proud of the facilities we have to teach these classes in, because we didn't have those before we have our new high school. I mean, I look at the automotive and the CNA and the coffee shop and the bearware gear shop and all the things that we have now that are so, the facilities do matter. And so to have those available in addition to the classes and the curriculum is so important. And I think, again, thank you to the community for passing the referendum and then for everyone making it happen in this room. So I just have to say, it's astounding when, if you haven't seen some of the facilities, to view them and see that it makes a big difference for the students using them, and particularly these kinds of classes. So, that's all.
I just had one last
Hang
one,
on,
if
I got
nobody else is going.
Ms.
Go ahead.
Olson?
Well, I am a huge fan of Career Pathways, as many may know, because this helped me graduate high school, and it provided me with a job all the way up until I went to school to become a social worker, and it even supported me through college while I was earning my new degree. And Mr. Dosher is fantastic. I used to go in and sit in some of his meetings he would have with the automotive at the old high school, where it was a very small space he was cramped into, and now just his space is fantastic, and he just lights up when he talks about it. So that's wonderful to hear. His hard work has paid off, because he definitely works very hard on that. Just to highlight a little bit of the cybersecurity need, I had brought this up back in '21 when Jenny Moore was here, and I had a conversation. I have a cousin who works in cybersecurity, and just MSBA had highlighted that year a huge need for cybersecurity staff. And my cousin who works in the industry for Abbott had said there's nobody who qualifies for the jobs they put out. So they just have to hire them, and then they have to train them. And she said, even if we could just train them in how to work Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, it would be a huge bonus, because they have to teach them everything, which is kind of scary to think that they can't use some of those basic programs. And then for my own self, when I went to school, and it was called on-job training back then, and I took Math for the Daily Living, which, let me tell you, that was a helpful class. Taught me how to balance my checkbook, taught me what interest was. Like, you learned a lot of things that you were like, I had no idea about that stuff. But the path I had was administration. So I was the athletic director's secretary for my senior year of high school. And then they actually hired me on after I graduated for a year, and I was just an administrative assistant in the office. And then they lost funding and they couldn't keep me. But some other things to just think about. I mean, our district wouldn't be where it is without a lot of our administrative staff that we have. So it is a good pathway to maybe be easy. And it would help some kids learn how to use Excel, PowerPoint, Word, Google in like a career platform and environment, which they're going to need to use. And so it just always makes me think of that. And I know at the time, they said one of the biggest barriers to bringing in a cybersecurity programming is to getting the staff that can properly teach that class, because the degrees and the certifications that they need to have was something that they had always looked into, but just didn't have the capabilities to do that. So they do partner, I believe, and we probably still do with Century, has a program regarding that. It would be great to find a way to bring it into our schools as we're growing, and technology is definitely an area that's growing. Being someone who works in human services now, I was happy to see that was the #1 for growth coming up here. But just, yeah, so thankful that we have this in our buildings, and it's just wonderful, so thank you.
Thank you for sharing. We do, cybersecurity is the revolving conversation we have of how and when is the right time to implement something, what's the right partnership. So that is 100% on our radar, at least so you know that we're finding the right time and the right place and the right partnership, I think, to make that happen. So that's definitely on our radar. And then also is the students having that gap in knowledge of Microsoft products versus what we use in school. And there are certificates out there that we've talked about embedding into various classes. And so that would give students that opportunity to learn that as well. So that is also on our radar.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Scarra, you had one more comment or question?
Oh, this wasn't it's related back to cybersecurity, but I have a different question. But Minnesota has like the state of Minnesota has a cyber monitoring center in St. Paul that would probably make a decent partner, I would think.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. My other, this is related to Ms. Daniels' question about the investments made. And I'm looking at the slide that shows the investments in each school, and there's 2 bullets per school. So there's probably a total of 25 bullets to justify a $400 million project. I don't think that's adequate. I think there should be more transparency with that.
So is this a question directly for the
administration?
Okay, so that's something for them.
I think it's germane to the topic. Not with your the question had to do with upgrading our facilities, which is a good thing, right? In the high school across the other schools. So it would be nice to see that. Where did we put the money?
Can I just offer some clarity?
You may.
So that information is all in the documents that have been presented to the board over the various school board meetings, so they are all on the website. So anytime that we get an update about the bond referendum, they'll come in and they'll say, this is what we've done so far, this is what we've spent, this is the projects that we're doing, and so that information is all out there in the board documents, and is also, like, if you look in some of these other sections of the process of the Building Our Future, that information is all there. So the information that, because I've been here and Deb's been here since the very beginning of the bond referendum, and it is all public information on all of our presentations. So you can find those certainly on the website.
It's not easily accessible. It's insufficient, in my opinion. It needs to be more transparent. It should be on each school's website to see exactly what you did.
I'd like to bring it back to
and plus we have not had a review of the project since August of last year. It's time to have a review of it.
Okay, but right now we're on career pathways, so I want to bring it back to that. Yes, go ahead.
I loved the visual that you had for, here's the different areas that kind of cluster together, and if you're interested in A through Z, this might be the pathway you choose, or if you're interested, and this would be the first year that I haven't received a registration booklet, so I didn't look at it, so I'm assuming it's not in, well, I call it a booklet because we used to get the booklets, but now it's all online. I would think that would be something that could be really helpful for students to look at. Parents too, but for students to look at, especially 9th, 10th graders as they're choosing the classes that they're gonna be taking 10th grade and on, basically. Just to see sort of, as they're working through with the counselors, when they take their assessment to see what areas their aptitude is in, and then they can see, well, these are the different kinds of classes that may be available for me for these things, just to tie it all together for students. Some students already know from the day they were born what they're going to do, and then there's the vast majority of the others who have no clue, but would like to look at, okay, so they say I'm good at this, let's see what that falls into. So I think maybe that kind of visual or that kind of information would be super helpful as the kids are looking through and the parents are looking through what am I gonna register for next year? So just throwing that out there. That
Yes, well, you're totally right. So something we have in development are called career trees. If you've seen them at Century College or the 916 Career Tech Center, they are a tree of a pathway, and our industry partners and our teachers came together to talk about what are we teaching in the high school, and then what does that look like after? What are the options? And it's tiered by entry level, technical careers, and then professional careers, and so that we have 2 of those already printed for our health and wellness pathway and our automotive pathway, and then the others are in production and working together with our partners to get those printed as well, because they totally agree that that's really valuable. And then there's curriculum with it, and the teachers can tie that into their classes as they see fit. So yes.
I think that'd be great.
Mhm.
Be super helpful.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you for all the time you're putting in career pathways. The old career wheel was 18 years ago. I sat on the committee, and I actually went around and taught it. It needed to be updated. And I like the new national one because it's taking it from the pathway to more of the cluster area, because in high school, a lot of our kids don't go that far down, but they're at the cluster area, and then it still opens some opportunities for them. They still have the opportunity to go down to the pathway, but the new clusters are going to allow them to have a wider scope. And that because we also know we don't change as fast as industry, so that it lets them be ready. I want to give credit to our certified nursing assistants who earned their certificate, because what we don't maybe know is the state mandates they have to have so many hours in the classroom or they can't sit for the exam. So it's not like they can come once a week. They have to be there. And that's the state requirement. So they're putting the time in for that. And the last thing is your test drive. As you're talking about it, there's so many standards from our new personal finance course that if you can pair that up, because some of those, everything you talked about hits one of those standards. So keep what you're doing. It's exciting, and I'm excited to see what we do next for our students. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are now at our adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Ms. Ellison, do we have a second? Second by Ms. Thompson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are now adjourned. Thank you.